because I don't need a boast, but I just...
Hello, it's about 11:15 I think, close, 10 to 11, and it's a Thursday, and I'm about to watch the rest of the first episode of A Confession whilst deleting and transferring files and having serials. Because of the politics and Brexit at the moment, motions being passed, elections being sorted out and all that, I've been preoccupied watching the drama in real life than the drama that's fictional yet based on true events. So that's the plan at the moment, to watch this, and when that's finished, then I'll start editing yesterday's. Hopefully I'll finish it. Been pretty good at the moment. I'm up to date. I'm actually getting out yesterday's vlog the next day, which is how it should be. Go for a drive somewhere, but I don't know. The beauty is I don't know where. I've got nothing planned. Again, I'll rummage through the newspapers here. Something called What's On. It's got an events list for September, and Eastbourne Voice. I've picked this up once before when I was at the hotel, and I'm not sure if it made an impact or not. I don't think it did, but I would say 50-50. I would say, yeah, there's something in there if for everyone. So I'll browse for this, and hopefully I'll incorporate it into the drive later. Right, so having said all that, I'm going to get cracking with watching A Confession, devour the serials, and transfer and delete files. And of course, charge the camera battery. So they close next July. That's a shame. I've just done that. The time now is 3:15. I mentioned in a few videos back, maybe a week or two back, in fact at the time where I was trying out different video editors quite recently, because it wasn't exporting to a high definition. It was, YouTube compresses it and it looks very low res on YouTube. And I thought it was because it was something technical called a H.264, and the video camera, the Canon, shoots in H.265, which is more of a higher definition, and of course YouTube compresses it and you lose the quality even more. And I thought I'd try different video editors to see if I can export to a really high quality, and I couldn't. I had to come back to DaVinci Resolve. Well, I've just seen a video where somebody was switching from this person's a YouTuber, or what they call a creator. And what she did was, well, she normally edits with Adobe Premiere Pro, and she's been trying DaVinci Resolve, and she picked up on the YouTube compression issue, and that's because when you use the YouTube issue within DaVinci Resolve, it looks like it's compressed at that point and then compressed again by YouTube. So anyway, what she's saying is don't use the YouTube preset, but use one of the others. So today I've tried a non-YouTube preset. What it means is it won't upload automatically anymore. So that's life. When I go for a drive and come back and it's done, exported, then I have to manually upload like in the old days. So I just realized I haven't been checking the preferences. I used to check to make sure I was signed in. I haven't been checking it lately. I knew there was something that I wasn't doing. Anyway, so today, now, I've used a different preset. I'm not oh yeah, what I've done is there's a couple of issues I had to do tweak. So I've chosen the high profile something and I've increased the kilobytes per second on the video. So that was the secret. You increase it. At the moment it's set to 10,000 kbs, kilobytes per second. Now because YouTube compresses it down, I've set it from 10 to 40,000. I've paused because this is not what she did say use a higher rate. I didn't know what she meant by that, so I had to go on to find a YouTube video which told me that I should boost it from 10k to 30 or 40k. So I'm using 40k and a high profile or whatever. So those two settings are different to usual, and now it's currently exporting. I don't know if it will crash in a couple of hours, but hopefully the quality on YouTube will be noticeable. Right, now I'm going to put my shoes on and head for a drive. Where to, I don't know. Another mystery tour. That's not so mysterious.
In that book, because he's ultimately somebody who knows what the truth is.
You were saying about Sophia. Although she's a really strong character and she's very educated, I kind of felt when I was reading the story that the women, Sophia, Mama Kate, and Agnes, were all really impacted by the actions of men. Although they were strong in themselves, they didn't have power when it came to it. Their lives were drastically altered by men from the actions of men.
Serian is sometimes called a matriarchy, posing as a patriarchy. A lot of the society is run by women, but at the same time it is still a patriarchy. So women are given a lot more than in many other places.
But when you get to the top,
But when you get to the
man.
top, it's a man. Yeah, it's always a man on the top. You know, I would have liked to write a book in which Sophia did amazing things, but it wouldn't have been true. Her life was circumscribed by certain things, and one of the things it was circumscribed by was the need to be married. So her marriage to Julius was a love match, clearly. They're passionate about each other, but her second marriage is the society pressurizing her to be a certain kind of woman.
Since you wrote the book, Sierra Leone has been through Ebola, which is a very different kind of trauma. Does it just compound the post-traumatic stress disorder of the country, or does it give a new narrative that can help replace some of the silence that's been there before?
That's a really interesting question. I think one of the fascinating things about that, the Ebola tragedy, was one of the worst things that ever happened to us, but it showed the country at its best, because people, having survived one thing, felt they could survive the second thing. A lot of the diaspora were involved, a lot of people on the ground were question, yes, I think it probably did override some of the tensions that have been left over by the war. There was a new kind of threat. It had nothing to do with your neighbour. It had nothing to do with an invading militia. It had to do with something that was a threat to everybody, and it did provide a certain amount of confusion. Actually, I was out recently, and I met a man from Algeria, and he said to me, "Oh, you're from Sierra Leone. I'm so impressed at the way your country's pulled itself together after all of that." And I said, "Thank you very much, because I really think we have." You know, I mean, to go through the civil conflict, then being knocked by a burner as well was extraordinary. But yeah, I think Sierra Leone has actually come out of two extremely hard knocks with a great deal of resilience.
And if you were to identify one of the aspects of Sierra Leonean culture, indeed West African society, that has the strongest pull on you, having lived there for as much of your life as you have, what would it be?
What I adore about the Sierra Leoneans, West Africans, is extraordinary ability to survive. But it isn't just to survive, and this is where Sierra Leone wins. It is to survive and retain humour. People who go to Sierra Leone or visit the country for the first time are always quite struck at the way, even when the war was going on, people were capable of making jokes about it. And resilience, of course, and humour are tied together. You know, if you are the kind of person who can laugh at your own misfortune, you're far more likely to survive it than if you're the kind of person who can't laugh at your misfortune. You know, I think that's the core thing about Sierra Leone.
We've got some great writers coming up, for example, the American writer Ben Lerner in the autumn. That's going to be recorded in November. If you want to come along and meet him, just go to the book club webpages. They can be easy to find, and to email us. We do love, of course, having our listeners reading along with us, and I know many of you do that. And next month, I should tell you that on the first Sunday of October, our chosen book will be The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. It's a devastating, imaginative account of a young slave's attempt to get freedom from a brutal plantation.
And as Jim said, the book to be reading for October's edition of the programme is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. And you might like to know that Helen Fielding is to be a guest, talking, of course, about her hapless romantic heroine Bridget Jones and her diary. If you'd like to come along to that recording, all the details are on the book club website, which you'll find at bbc.co.uk/radio4. And book club is presented by James Doxey and produced by Dimfna Flynn. The news is next, and then what exactly does a stills photographer do on a film set?
80 miles per hour through Essex. The Rail Accident Investigation Branch said the train had covered 16 miles. Lashing the coastal regions of North and South Carolina. Around 180,000 people in the region have lost power. The hurricane caused at least 20 deaths in the Bahamas earlier this week. A Metropolitan Police officer who bought pornography at the family home of a dead child has been jailed for 12 months. Avi Maharaj, who's 44 and from Hayes, been asked to guard the home while the family were being consoled after the death of their son. He guessed the password to the family's TV account.
Love story, all of it, almost unthinkable without that accompanying theme. But would it have made $136 million at the box office with a soundtrack like this? Unit photographer. Frank wrote to us suggesting that we talk to Keith, whose CV includes 6 films by Clint Eastwood and the Oscar-winning Argo. When he came to the studio, there was a question I simply had to ask. What does a stills photographer actually do?
Whenever people ask me what I do as a photographer and I say that I'm a film stills photographer or unit stills photographer, to give it its proper title, there's usually 2 reactions. The first reaction is the mystified that each were at the side of the studio. They weren't generally taken so much during the shooting, so the pictures were very heavily retouched, very heavily edited, and very carefully controlled by the studio as to what they would release.
But to be clear, most film posters we see will be a stills photographer has taken that.
99% of them will be a stills photographer, and it's it's hard to say, but maybe half of the pictures will have been taken during filming, so they will have been during an actual scene. So stills photographer usually quite set for 14, 16, 18 weeks, and they do that very English actor thing of greeting the crew but without actually making eye contact. And there are other actors.
Does that go down badly with crews?
It can do, yeah. The other side of that is that there are a lot of actors, and they often tend to be Americans, who are very friendly and very open and will greet everybody. But you do get a sense of what they want to, whether they want to be left alone or whether they want to engage in meaningless chat about what was on TV or the weather. And some actors do, some actors don't. You can pick that up, and the crew are always very sensitive to that, because it's the old film set saying of never say no to an actor. So if an actor wants to be left alone in silence, you leave them alone in silence. If they want to talk,
You're taking, people have to believe that that's a moment from the film, effectively.
yeah, I think so. And I think they do have to believe that it's a moment from the film, and I think they also have to believe in that moment as well. And so if you see some of the posters, particularly for action films, which are often composited pictures with a very dramatic background and the actor looking perfect and very heavily retouched, there might be an effective poster, but you might not believe that as a moment from the film. Whereas some of the pictures, Clint always wants his poster to be taken from the unit photography at the time. He doesn't want the actors to be brought back to have studio photography done. But some of the films are different, and they will have what are called specials, which is a shoot which they'll arrange with the actors either to the side of the film set or after the film's finished.
So, for example, the poster for American Sniper with Bradley Cooper's head bowed,
Yeah.
like that. So where did you take that?
The film is set in Iraq, but obviously they couldn't film in Iraq, so Rabat in Morocco doubles up as Iraq. So they're all on location, they're all unposed, and they're all moments taken during the film.
So
Percent of them don't get used, they get discarded.
do you find yourself thinking, oh, if you just move to the right a little bit, this would be perfection?
No,
You just work with what you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the fun of it is that you don't have it almost sometimes a little bit lost as to what you're concentrating on.
You get a little thrill when you walk past the poster.
Yeah, I get amused. In fact, when I got the train here today from Brighton, stopped at Haywards Heath, and the guy was taking down a poster for a private war. So just as the train pulled in, I could see him removing the Perspex cover from the poster display and pulling down a private war.
Yeah, that's my
That's mine, give it back.
And that was Keith Bernstein. You can see his film stills and that very touching image of Nelson Mandela on our website. Now we've moved up to the penthouse suite of Broadcasting House where the BBC piano lives. And Neil Brand is here with...
Evans has turned up in our stories before. It was Robert Evans who basically put a boot through the original score for Chinatown. Produced from that. At this time, however, Evans is just running things at Paramount, and his wife, who he has just married, and when he met her on a film set the previous year, is Ali McGraw. Now,
So far away, it's so far away from what we see in the actual film.
but if
That's
she's in Hollywood, but Alain Delon, this is where our French connection comes. Delon sees it, hears that Francis Lay is being approached, and that Francis Lay has turned it down, and contacts Lay and says, "You have got to do this movie. I've just seen it." Delon would have known him. He'd worked with Lelouch. What's the famous number that he wrote for Lelouch? This is what actually brought Francis Lay to everybody's attention. 1966, he comes up with this. Yeah, and this is right up with Jaws for me as a piece of music that saves the film, because it is a bringing together of French sophisticated sadness with an all-American story for an all-American audience, and they could not have loved it.
Neil, thank you very much. For some, it's a new documentary.
What's going on in Syria, where you effectively had educated, middle-class, secular people peacefully protesting and being met with the most unbelievable, unrelenting violence that we've seen from a government against their own people, I think, since the Second World War. That was so significant and so important for the entire world, for everybody's history, that we should be making films about it. So No one knew. I didn't know that Wad and Hamza existed, obviously, at that point. It was only after they'd been forced to flee from Aleppo, and she revealed that she'd been filming this incredible archive of everything you could imagine, from the most horrific things I've ever seen, covering war, like as I have for 12 years, terrible images, but also some of the most joyful, some of the greatest moments of humanity that I've ever seen in a documentary.
When this 500 hours landed,
Yeah.
did you watch it with her? Did you watch it alone? What was that?
Both. So what we did when we sort of started the process was we actually sat together in Istanbul for I think it was 10 days or so, and she had her second daughter Taima gurgling happily, 3 months old, alongside us, and we just sat on the floor of Hilton in Istanbul, just watching and scrubbing through stuff, with Wad just talking to me about every clip, who were the people in the clips, what was the story behind the clips, what was happening at that moment in the city. I wrote something like 150 pages of notes off the back of that, and just trying to get our hands around this, this huge...
The program was over, I started working with GPS, and the rest of that sort of thing is history.
I think Hugo is being too modest. He was the key in developing our space atomic clock.
But with a constellation of just 5 satellites giving a navigational fix approximately once an hour, the US Navy's rudimentary system was pretty limited.
Well, in the early days, we had a satellite system called Transit, which was relatively inaccurate, and it was periodic, and it had a number of challenges. It was being used by mostly
atomic clocks from massive laboratory rigs to little units that could go into space was one of the big breakthroughs. GPS was military tech at first, but the engineers introduced a dither, or a wiggle factor, for non-military applications.
We put in a dither that the ground controller could play with, so he could either
silicon, but a totally different material, carbon. Here, the carbon is fashioned into tubes, nanotubes, and they have useful electronic properties. Max Shoemaker of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology has been telling me how to fashion these carbon nanotubes, or CNTs, into transistors, the devices at the heart of our computers.
Transistors are examples of how calculus is fundamental to just the things that we take so much for granted that are part of our everyday lives. Give us an example of those.
Well, most of us are walking around with those cell phones that you mentioned we should turn off before this event. Many people like to store songs on their phone. There may be 5,000 songs on your phone if you're a real music lover. There's an issue of how do you compress all that information to fit in a small space available in the phone. And so optimal compression of data is something that makes use of calculus. Or HIV, if we think about the development of the triple combination drug therapy that has turned HIV from what used to be a near certain death sentence into now what is a manageable but chronic.
By telling Claudia Hammond just what makes our skin so special.
Well, skin is our most visible and largest organ. It's massively overlooked. It's a window into science. A lot of modern science, from immunology to gene editing, is playing out on the skin. But it's also a window into psoriasis, and they're both skewing the immune system to a different side. So you very, very rarely see people with both eczema and psoriasis. But over the last 2, 3, 4 years, these new medications almost completely eliminated severe psoriasis and eczema. These brand new massive moisturizers is that studies show that relatively cheap moisturizers are effective, but once you start paying anything more, it doesn't have any extra effect. There are a couple of creams that can slow down the effects of aging on the skin. By far the most effective is sunscreen, and sunlight is the greatest cause of skin aging. Some dermatologists say that even more than time itself, even though that would be impossible to study, sunlight is a huge skin ager, so sun cream is really important to wear. And also retinoic acid. So retinoids, retinoic acid, are vitamin A molecules that have been shown to...
Right, why am I stopping at all these superstores? Well, there was something I used to have when I was a teenager, if you like, and it was frozen. It had rice, I think there was vegetables, and whenever it was cooked, cooked in a frying pan or a wok, the juices from the vegetables and the rice was really delicious, and I remember I loved it as a kid. And I've been thinking that it occurred to me the other day, if they still supplied it. And I was in Asda yesterday, and I was looking for stir fry. I thought it was stir fry because it was, I think the bean shoots and the tiny cauliflowers I seem to recall on the plate. Then it occurred to me it wasn't that, because I remember the vegetables the colours would mix with the water and create its own sauce. So anyway, I looked in Asda, and they've got a golden vegetable. Actually, I got it on Google Keep to be precise. It's a fragrant golden vegetables, and it's in the frozen section. And I didn't buy it. Well, I couldn't decide. I was gonna find out if I had if I brought a wok with me, or a frying pan from the last place. But when I looked at the instructions on the back of the bag, it said it could be microwaved. So I thought, okay, well, what I'll do today, the next day, was I'll go to Morrison's, Tesco's and Sainsbury's and do a price check. Now, in Tesco's they sold it for £2, and so did Morrison's. In Sainsbury's they sold it for £1.50, which is a penny more than Asda. Then this is a brand product. The next one was Sainsbury's own version of it, which was 39p cheaper. So I got it, and it's called a microwavable golden vegetable rice. That's what it looks like. It's got 2 bags, so you just put one bag in the microwave. There's all the stuff in a bag, boil in the bag rice, in fact. So I gave it a smell, and it smelled familiar. It was the smell. So I thought, okay, I get it, and I'll have it later maybe. I think definitely, yeah. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's what the mystery was, visiting all these superstores. Right, so the export of the new preset will be complete by the time I get home. So I'm going to make my way home now.
Paul, what would your memo to the leader be about what his approach should be to this election?
Well, the troop trains are rolling towards the border on the First World War principle that, you know, the Parliament can't function. We need an election, and going early doesn't mean going yesterday or now. It means that if certain assurances can be gained, and if legal opinions, can dot the I's and cross the T's, they should go for a snap election starting Monday, Tuesday. That's what I think it would be.
So I think you're in the minority if you were a Labour MP. In terms of when it is better for Labour to have an election, just electorally, there's a bit of a debate going on, isn't there? Because there's the argument that Boris Johnson gets humiliated by this.
When people lie, you have to call them liars. He's a loser and a liar, and that will be on any memo from me to the Labour leadership of what our slogan should be. So we've got him there. Better to keep him there, but let's get the legal out of place. And the other thing is, the sum was a 35, 40 empty seats. But there's no candidates for Labour. Now, why should we?
It is widespread. The flooding. Certainly, there's still.
I saw, but one wonders whether there's any basis to these figures and whether they may turn out to be way, way bigger. No idea.
We expect it to be way larger than that. The figure that you heard 20 is the official word that came from the Prime Minister in his last national press conference, and that's because of what they have retrieved or documented. But now that communications are up, people are hearing from family members who are on the ground saying it's way more. It can be in the hundreds. They're seeing bodies everywhere. The problem is people have not retrieved those bodies yet to include those in the count.
Clint Watson, a reporter with the Bahamas national broadcaster ZNS.
One of the founders of the environmental direct action group Extinction Rebellion has said that 6 billion people will die this century as the result of climate change. But he hasn't been able to explain why he thinks that. So we tried to figure out for ourselves what the number.
Holding it together nicely, but I mean, this is a big deal for him, and I know that he would have thought this through very, very carefully. Yeah, I think he's quite upset today.
Britain's leading children's hospital has been strongly criticised over the death of a teenage girl. The coroner presiding over the inquest into the death of 14-year-old Amy Allen said there had been no proper plan for her post-operative care and treatment. She died from complications following a spinal operation. The governor of the US state of North Carolina has warned residents of the potentially deadly nature of Hurricane Dorian as it moves towards the state. Roy Cooper said democratic legitimacy of a public referendum.
Parliament has become a theatre being live around the world in which democracy's alliance bill passes and if no deal has been reached at that point.
Well, Evan, thank you very much for having me on your programme. I think before we get to that point, we need to consider what's going to happen, what has happened yesterday and what's going to happen over the next few days. The reality is that by passing this Jeremy Corbyn surrender bill, as I would refer to that yesterday,
as you've been told to refer to it by messages
it is.
Carry on.
I'm saying to you, it is surrendering, absolutely, and it is surrendering our negotiating position in terms of the government's ability to negotiate a deal with the European Union.
So surrendering to the European Union.
And I think the reality of it is that the only way of deciding who the public want to negotiate a Brexit deal at the European Council on 7th of October is to have a general election. It isn't what...
That's the question.
Evan, what is really important, and I think all members of Parliament need to consider this before Monday when we come back and have another vote on whether we should have a general election or not, is that this is not actually about politicians now. This is about the people. We gave the people a choice in 2016 to decide whether they wanted to stay.
And we elected the politicians in 2017, and the politicians are not agreed on.
We'll have another opportunity on Monday.
Have you not been listening? Seriously, have you not been listening to him? He wants a general election once no deal has been ruled out until after the general election, so that we won't have a no-deal Brexit while we all argue about the general election. Now that couldn't have been simpler or clearer. Can you guarantee that there will be no ruses, wheezes, dodgy behaviour that would mean we leave with no deal prior to a general election if Parliament voted for one?
What I would like, and what the Prime Minister wants, is for Parliament to agree to a general election. We vote on this again on Monday. And this is about respecting our respect.
What is wrong with the government that he doesn't feel it's compromising enough that it has a place for him? That's a very strange thing.
Well, he's made a decision, as you said in your programme, the Prime Minister has thanked him for all the work that he's done for the country and for his constituency. But I go back to the fundamental point, which is that I, along with every Conservative MP, and Jeremy Corbyn, along with every Labour MP, stood on manifestos in 2017 saying that we would respect the outcome of the referendum. And that's what we need to be focused on. And that's why on Monday, if Jeremy Corbyn does not...
Us going around in circles on this thing. Let me ask you one last one. Because it's actually been one of the kind of strange images of the week that has affected lots of people's views of Parliament, which was this picture of Jacob Rees-Mogg, leader of the House, lying prostrate. Things have been moving there this week. Pro-democracy protesters, though, say they'll not give up their fight, despite the announcement from Carrie Lam, the leader there, that the controversial expedition is being dropped. It was the bill, of course, which triggered the
trend in society and look for solutions. After more than 2 months of social unrest, it is obvious to many of us that the discontentment in society extends far beyond the Bill. It covers political, economic, and social issues.
Well, Laurie Wen is a pro-democracy activist there and joins us from Hong Kong. And thank you for joining us, Laurie. I wonder what your reaction is, because one wonders whether Carrie Lam made this concession too late to pull you into kind of constructive dialogue, or whether you think there's still enough time to do so.
Well, it's true that outside of Hong Kong, people may think, oh great, now it's over. The pro-democracy protesters got what they demanded, end of story. But by far, this is not the end of the story. First of all, if someone has been threatening to do something truly terrible to you, and you resist successfully, and they finally say, fine, we won't do this terrible thing to you, are you supposed to then drop to your knees and thank them? No. I mean, the most we can say is that we're back to zero, but in reality, we're actually not back to zero, because in our struggle to fight off this terrible thing that was going to be imposed on us, her administration unleashed out of control police violence on protesters and seemingly coordinated multiple attacks on us with organized crime members. So 3 people shot by the police. Pro-Beijing legislator yesterday, immediately after Lam's announcement, basically said as much, that if at this point the protests don't stop, we may usher in the emergency law. So that's very scary, very ominous. And Carrie Lam may also be doing this to buy time, to try to remove a factor in the now, of course, very heated US-China trade war, and to try to calm the international business community. I see buying time because the bill is not officially withdrawn until the Legislative Council reconvenes. And that does not take place until after October 1st. October 1st is the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, and it's an open secret that, they don't want a food crisis on their hands around the time of this all-important anniversary.
Laurie, we'll leave it there. Your response, I think, to Carrie.
Brexit. Tonight, however, in Wakefield, the Prime Minister, who'd been hoping to grab the headlines with his call for a general election, found himself repeatedly questioned by reporters over his relations with his brother.
And he's asking about my brother Joe, who's a fantastic guy and who's a brilliant Minister for Science at the universities. Joe doesn't agree with me about the European Union because it's a...
Well, put it in the freezer for later. When I came in, the export worked. I even had the browser open. Now the browser isn't Chrome anymore. I've uninstalled Chrome and used the house browser. And by that I mean the browser that came with the operating system that came with the laptop, i.e. Windows. I would say Microsoft Explorer, but it's called Edge these days, and apparently it's more safe, more faster, more secure, and I think it takes up less RAM than Chrome used to, which is why I uninstalled it. Anyway, with that open and the export succeeding with really high quality, so I'm led to believe, video, and before I did anything else, I've still got my shoes on, was to upload it to YouTube straight away. And apparently it's going to take, we're still working out how long it's going to take, and the last count was 36 minutes. So that's okay, because now I'm going to, once I've got my shoes off, work on the chili con carne on toast, which I'm looking forward to. And I haven't watched that Jeff Bridges excuse me, Kiefer Sutherland, Sandra Bullock film, The Vanishing. So that's still on the cards. Also, it depends on what's going on in the news regarding Brexit and what have you. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything going on today. I think there's going to be another vote, some sort of motion passing tomorrow. They mentioned Friday for something, I don't know what exactly, but while I was out, I was starving again. So I'm glad to be back. I can't wait to have the chili con carne. So that's what I'm going to do next. "30 minutes.
Figures are in the right sort of ballpark.
In terms of the second part of your question, in the event of a no-deal Brexit, as I said, that was a rather different cost environment.
I've top and tailed the video. It's now public, so I'm about to move over there to the sofa and watch it on the big screen. But before I do, I need to fill her up.
So I think given our remit,